Hello, this is Jacqueline from Jack Knits, and today's video is all about cable stitches. There are endless possibilities of the different ways you can do cable stitches in your knitting. It produces such a fun, classic look, and I am excited to show you 2 new ways you can do cable stitches just by changing up how you hold your cable needles and how many stitches you put on and how frequently you do the cable, etc. So let's get started with looking at these 2 fun new cable varieties. All right, let's take a look at how to do these fun cable variations. Now, if you are unfamiliar with doing the basic cable stitches, I posted a video a little while back on the basics of cable knitting, how to use a cable knitting needle, the dimensions and the practice of switching the stitches around to produce these fun twists in a cable. So if you would like, watch that video first. I have a link in the upper right hand corner that will give you some really good background and basics to a cable knitting, and then you can watch this video, which will give you a little bit more of a more complicated cable stitch if you'd like. So let's jump into these fun cable stitches. I am using a cable needle for these, but if you don't have a cable needle, you can use just a straight double pointed needle as your cable needle. The cable needle is just a little bit easier to use. It kind of brings it out of the way a little bit easier when you're knitting with the cable. So let's start by looking at this cable stitch. This is a horseshoe cable, and this one here is the sand cable, which I made a really pretty headband on. But let's take a look at this first one first here. All right, this particular cable stitch is 12 stitches wide for the actual cable. And then what I did to kind of offset that cable look is I put 6 stitches on either side of the cable, and that just helps this cable just pop out a little bit. But the actual cable stitch is only 12 stitches. So for this particular swatch, I casted on 24 stitches for this, and I'm using just regular worsted weight yarn and a size 7 needle. I'm using a circular needle, but any flat needle will work as well. So this is an 8-row repeat, but only one of the rows, row 3, has the actual cable stitch in it. The rest of the rows are just a combination of just plain knitting and purl, so very easy to pick up. So let's get started with row number 1. And row 1 is just one of those combinations of knitting and purling. Just before we get to rows 3, 1 and 2 are. So the first 6 stitches for row 1 is these first 6 purl stitches. So we're going to knit, or excuse me, purl for 6 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, and now we're going to knit for 12 stitches over this cable part of the pattern. And then purl for 6 stitches. All right, now we are going to do row 2, and row 2, which is the wrong side row, and every wrong side row in this particular cable pattern is going to be purling all stitches. So let's purl all the way across row number 2. All right, now we are beginning row number 3, and row 3 is where the fun cable stitch happens. So row 3 is going to be using this cable needle. We are going to again start with just our six purl stitches to get to our cable stitch. So 1, all right, now we are ready to begin our cable stitch. So we're going to take our cable needle here. We're going to slip the next 3 stitches from our regular needle onto our cable needle. So just switch them, flip them from one needle to the other. Don't twist them. Now we're going to hold that cable needle to the back of our work. That's important. You're going to want to go to the back for this first set of cables. Now we're going to knit 3 from our regular needle. 1, 2, and 3. Now we're going to pick up and knit those stitches from our cable needle. So let's bring our cable needle to our hand, bring the yarn, working yarn to the back of the cable needle because we are knitting these stitches. And we're going to just knit right off the cable needle the next 3 stitches, or the 3 stitches that are on the cable needle. All right. So now, you can set this down for just a moment. You can see that I have twisted my stitches leaning to the right. And now we're going to do, right away, we're going to do another set of cable stitch and twist it the other direction. So let's pick up our cable needle again. And now we're going to slip 3 stitches onto our cable needle. 1, 2, 3, but this time instead of holding the needle to the back, we're going to hold that cable needle to the front. So it's laying in the front of our work. So first we laid it to the back, now we're laying it to the front, and we'll knit the next 3 stitches on our needle. Okay, now we are ready to knit the 3 from our cable needle. And we'll knit 1, 2, 3 from this needle. And we'll finish this row with those last 6 purl stitches. Okay, so now you can see that I've completed my next set of cable twist, one going to the right, one going to the left, and then now the next few rows are just kind of straighten this out, kind of the in-between rows before I do that another row of stitches. So our next row, which is row 4, again, it's the wrong side row, so we're just going to purl all of these stitches. But then rows 5 through 8 are just going to be a basic repeat of rows 1 and 2. So I won't bore you with me knitting those rows. I'll put those instructions on the side. You'll see that row 5 is just a repeat, or rows 5 and 7 are a repeat of row 1, and rows 6 and 8 are just a repeat of row 2. So I'll do those few rows and then we'll come back and we'll see how this is looking with our beautiful horseshoe cable. All right, so you've seen that I have finished up those 8 rows of this horseshoe cable, and now I am ready to start rows 1 again, so 1 through 8, and rows 3 again will be where you do the cable stitches. So this is just a really fun, unique looking cable stitch. Again, would make a really nice headband like I did with this other cable stitch. But let's take a look now at this fun sand cable stitch. So this one I made into a headband, and this is just a combination of right leaning and left leaning cable stitches, and we are actually on this one going to be doing a purl cable. So let's learn how to do that one as well. So I created another little swatch here. So for this particular cable, the sand cable, it is again, the cable stitches are in a multiple of 12 stitches. I chose to repeat that one more time. So I cast it on 24 stitches. So I did this 12 stitch cable repeat twice in the width of this swatch here. First, we are going to do a couple rows of just knitting and purling to kind of get to this next row of cable. So row 1 and row 3 are going to be just knitting across. Rows 2 and 4 are going to be purling. So let me do rows 1 through 4 because it's just boring knitting and purling. You don't need to watch me do that. And then I'll jump to row 5, which includes the cable stitches. Okay? So I've completed rows 1 through 4, which was just knit, purl, then knit and purl. Now we're ready for row 5, and rows 5 and 10 of this 10 row repeat for this cable stitch is where the cable magic happens. That's where we're going to do our cable stitches. So let's start row number 5, and like I mentioned, we're going to jump right into the cable stitch right off the bat in the first 3 stitches of the row. So row 5, we're going to pick up our cable needle and we're going to slip the first 3 stitches onto our cable needle. And for this one, we are going to hold those stitches to the back. All right. Now we're going to knit the 3 stitches from our regular needle. And then we're going to knit the 3 stitches from our cable. Now, when you have the cable stitches on the very edge, just make sure that your cable needle didn't flip around, that your stitches aren't twisted. But now we can knit those 3 stitches from our cable needle. 1, 2, and 3. Set those aside, and we can see that we have done our first little cable twist, and it's leaning towards the right. Now we're going to, between this and our next set of cable stitches, we're going to just knit 6 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now we're just going to do that repeat again. So we are going to again use our cable needle, slip 3 stitches to that needle, and again hold to the back because we're just repeating what we just did earlier. Hold to the back, knit 3 stitches from our needle. Sorry, they're banging around, that cable needle's banging on my desk here. And then we're going to knit those 3 stitches. Hold our needle working yarn to the back because we're knitting these stitches. All right, and you'll see we did another twist to the right, and now we can finish this row with just 6 knit stitches. Okay, so that was row 5, and that included our right leading cable twist. Now we are going to knit and purl for a couple more rows, and then we'll do row 10, which are going to lean in the other directions. So rows 6, 7, 8, and 9 are just going to be purling and knitting. Row 6, all purl, 7, knit, rows 8, purl, and row 9, knit. So let me do those 4 rows, then we're going to come back to row number 10. I've completed those rows of purling and knitting, and now we're ready to do our final row, row 10 of our cable stitch, and that is actually going to be done on the wrong side row. Now it's a little bit unusual to do cable stitches from the wrong side. You usually do it on the knit side, but this just shows you that you can do cable stitches either right or left. It really, or right side or wrong side. It really doesn't matter. So we are going to perform our cable stitches while purling this time. So let's start row 10 right away with our cable stitches again. We are going to take our cable needle and take the first 3 stitches. Oh, I'm actually going to want to keep the yarn in back actually when you slip the stitches to the cable needle. Makes it a little bit easier. Let's do 3 stitches to our cable needle. And we are going to now hold the needle to the front. And now we're going to actually purl the next 3 stitches. We're purling now because we're on the wrong side row. All right, now we are going to purl the stitches from our cable needle. So let's bring those stitches to the edge, and we are purling them, so we need to get our working yarn to the front of our cable needle, and let's purl those 3 stitches. All right, set that needle aside. Oops, set that needle aside for just a moment, and we will now, in between our cable stitches, we will do a set of purl stitches, 6 purl stitches. 1, 5, and 6. And now we will do that set of purl cable stitches again. So 3 stitches onto our cable needle. hold that cable needle to the front, purl the next 3 stitches on your regular needle, and now we will purl the stitches from our cable needle, bringing the yarn to the front, and purling those 3 stitches. And let's finish this row with 6 purl stitches. And that completes row number 10, and that's the final row of our pattern. So now you would just repeat rows 1 through 10, and you would just produce this really fun wavy type cable stitch. This kind of almost looks like water, where this looks like sand. So you can make such beautiful patterns from so many cable variations. I hope you give cable stitches a try. If you liked what you see today, don't forget to subscribe so you can be notified of future videos that I post all about knitting tips and tutorials and creative fun knitting patterns. So give this a try. Let me know how it goes in the comments section, or if you'd like to see other videos on things that you'd like to learn how to knit, give me a shout out. Thanks everyone. Happy knitting.